Hey, we're back for the continuation and completion of Mega Week, the 5-run review that I had planned. I got this last one, I'll get to the title. Took a little extra time. It was a chaotic week, and I had a lot of extra time at work, my real job. So I do apologize about the delay, but this was a lot of fun. I can't wait to get into it. This is Drumboy Reads Slow. The review rampage continues, and today we're taking everyone down with us. Yes, I got the title right for once. It is a six-parter. We are 5 issues into this six-parter, so we're to the penultimate issue. Woo, new word in my vocabulary, I guess. So yeah, what do we got so far? I got some good remarks. I got some remarks that might push a few readers away, but for the most part, I think I'm going to get a few readers on this book. Let's get into it. Well, as a self-professed heavy reader, I can tell you sometimes these longer runs that I'm running through can be a little exhausting, and I get impatient. And a good miniseries, a good 3-parter or a 6-parter can really hit the spot. I was pretty impressed here by Matthew Rosenberg's We're Taking Everyone Down With Us. He's a funny guy, I gotta say. And he absolutely sticks the landing here. This is one funny book, and it's worth your time. Alright, getting into first impressions on this one, and I'm going to try to make this review a little bit shorter because this is a shorter run. Kind of looking at it, I didn't really know what to expect just from the cover. And if you dropped all 5 existing covers in front of me, I think I actually there is a image of cover 6 in issue 5 at the end. But yeah, this is a really cool variant cover I got. And it was kind of hard, other than kind of seeing the style of art on the cover, to get a gauge for what the overall mood and aesthetic was going to be. So you got to open it up. And I did appreciate that factor. It got my curiosity going. This is one of those books I just grabbed off the shelf at random, and I don't know why I did it when I saw issue 1. I kind of cringed at the register, and then later when I was looking through my haul, I was like, did I really have to, grab another title? And then I saw the reviews, and it was well received, so I kept getting it. Just now it was intriguing me. The covers were intriguing me. The reviews were intriguing me. So getting into it, the vibe. I heard a lot of descriptions. Sorry, that was my hi-hat. I stepped on it. I heard a lot of descriptions. I think someone mentioned like Johnny Quest, a little bit of Powerpuff Girls mixed in. I could honestly say the closest comparison I can think of is Venture Brothers or something like The Tick, where they kind of take the superhero story or the surreal story and they sensationalize it, but they also make it humorous and kind of show how outlandish the idea really is and how it stands up in the real world. It's satirical. And there's definitely a lot of satire going on here. Early on, I noticed on some of these covers, it says a Rook spy thriller. And there's actually a special agent Rook in the comic. And I'm wondering if once I kind of start to explain the story a little bit more, I'm wondering if Agent Rook is going to be a recurring character that keeps coming up in stories such as this. I wouldn't mind it. I absolutely wouldn't mind it. Hi-hat again. So the aesthetic, definitely, art-wise on the inside of the book, definitely that Hanna-Barbera Johnny Quest. I feel like all the characters could exist in that world. The sarcasm is absolutely ripe in this. The unintentional, characters, think The Office. I'm not a big fan of that show, by the way. Matt Walsh talking about monoculture dying and listing that as an all-time great show, and some mark of a high point in human history. It was ridiculous. But I do recognize that sometimes Michael Scott or early on Dwight could be funny in that they say something very serious. A lot of characters say something serious in that show as they're, you know, supposed to be representing like real people or parody of real people. And, you know, it thrives on unintentional humor. And so there's a little bit of that thrown in. I would say one of our main characters is hilarious for that factor, that he's just so unaware of how funny he is. And then, of course, Rook is like this absolute, you know, Ron Burgundy type of character. Ron Burgundy, or I'm thinking the other one Will Ferrell did with the cars. I like to go fast. But anyway, let's not get, you know, too carried away with the comparisons. It stands on its own. It becomes its own thing, but definitely there are parallels, and you will see this is definitely a book from the perspective of villains, supervillains, and they're I mean, it's just, the results are hilarious, and as the plot, you know, slowly unfolds through a lot of humor, you'll find that it's a pretty well conceived, webbed together story for about 6 issues, and I'm definitely gonna expand on this factor too. You get a lot of bang for your buck per every issue. So let's get into like the more meat of what made this little mini series interesting. So early on, we're introduced to the initial concept, and if I hit that hi-hat again, I'm going to scream. And we are introduced to a little girl who seems like she's fleeing someone with some sense of urgency, and what it appears to be chasing her are these robot creatures. They're it's hard to tell kind of what's going on at first, but it turns out to be just like a normal game of like hide and seek, and we're introduced to this little girl who's, to her, it's just this totally normal situation to have like these robot servant butlers, and they're all she has to play with her, because her dad, who, like, you know, you gradually get to like hear a little bit more about him as he eventually gets introduced, but he's so involved in his work, and, you know, think of famous professor tropes that, you know, they got a hot wife that, you know, like never gets any attention because he's always in the lab, and that's this guy to a T. He's, you know, Sheldon Cooper level-esque arrogant about, you know, like, you know, it's like he has no filter for how, you know, intelligent, like every thought that comes to him he thinks is, and how trivial every other aspect of it, you know, anyone else is just trivial and beneath him. And you find that there's a reason beyond just, you know, being a prodigious mind, and possibly, you know, of just a different level of intellect, or a savant of sorts. He's got some suspicious behavior about him. We're introduced to this concept that he almost sees right through his daughter, like as a representation of, like, he sees through everything that's important in life, and he's just so focused in on his work. But he agrees to play with her after, you know, a very cute scene where you kind of start to get the idea that, okay, this is a comedy. And so he plays a game of hide and seek, and it just ends in a ridiculous way. She finds a man in a locked room who's a hostage of her father, and he tries to tell her, you know, who he really is, all in this, you know, these opening pages, and that conversation gets cut short before she can get any information or even begin to believe the guy. And then we cut to, you know, a little bit later, and this professor guy who just seemed like he was absorbed in his work is actually, you know, capable of just killing people without a second thought. I don't want to get, you know, too much into like everything that's going on in the issue, because it's very dialogue heavy, and that's kind of what drives the story, is the characters talking to each other. So what the action and the actual, plot points, I don't want to ruin, because this is definitely worth reading yourself. But long and short, he is revealed to be, in a former life, by the moniker the Vitruvian, and it just sounds, foreboding. But he's also such a clown. You start to kind of like get those Venture Brother vibes. But in any regard, there is an attack on the secret location. It turns out to be this Agent Rook, this Ron Burgundy type secret agent guy, and he's you don't really even see it. You just kind of see some of his soldiers and the little girl's perspective of the whole thing. And what happens in that issue is slowly fed to you. The main point is made apparent, but the actual events, like what actually happened that ultimately caused that professor to be transferred, all of his memories and his consciousness, to this robot body. The actual, full scope of it is revealed a little bit more in issue 2, and then a little bit more in issue 3, and then a little bit more in issue 4. And they're still giving you little pieces of the full picture of what happens in issue 1, in issue 5, and we're already coming up on the conclusion issue. That could be, tiresome in some cases. This was handled very correctly, and I should say I got a little bit of caffeine in me. Since we're kind of getting into the details, I really need to credit our writers and our artists, because the writing is absolutely beautiful when you have a miniseries that's hitting the mark and being its own thing and being consistent with its own thing. You get just enough issues of something that you can see was truly someone's vision. And I'm really looking forward to getting into my distillery spotlight. That is a writer-owned product. They're doing their own thing, truly. And to me, that seems like a risky undertaking in 2025, and I believe that the whole diamond shutdown really affected them very badly. To know artists are and a publisher is trying to bring those types of visions forward, that's what it's all about here. I love that. But anyway, we have writing is Matthew Rosenberg, art by Stefano Landini, colors by Jason Wordy, and letters by Hassan Atsman El How. I'm very sorry, Hassan. I'm not sure how to correctly pronounce that. I should have done my homework. But this team was absolutely perfect for this project, working together. They meshed so well, and they saw at least up to issue 5, and I'm expecting a banger for issue 6. They melded so well on this. They're gonna get high marks on the art, on the readability, everything. On the bang for your buck aspect, I mean, each issue takes a minute to get through. I actually kind of felt like I was reading one of those double size or more distillery books, because you get so much dialogue, and it's the plot, it's the humor, and it's multifaceted humor. You're not just getting one aspect. It's not just continual sarcasm. Some characters have a sarcastic tone, others are just dummies, and they're funny in that unintentional way, like I was saying. And then this is not a kid's book, even though there's I mentioned that one of the characters is a little girl. This is not a kid's book. There's a lot of sexual humor, and yeah, there is some nudity. It's mostly men. It's mostly Agent Rook. It's basically all Agent Rook. And it leads to some of the funniest moments. definitely got me like to actually laugh out loud. When I'm reading and I'm laughing out loud, I know something is genuinely funny. Um, so we got 5 issues into this, and we are introduced to, like a council of villains who are they seem hilariously incompetent. Like, again, think the Tick, think your the comedy cartoons where, there's someone who's, he always manages to fail. And that's kind of how I feel about the villains, except when they actually do, encounter, when they're supposed to show, stakes in the matter, they actually all are very fearsome and very, very lethal. There's a lot of neck snaps that, and with comedic value. I mean, there's always a joke attached. I don't think Rosenberg misses even one opportunity to throw in some kind of humor to every single aspect. But long and short, this little girl winds up being more than she comes across as in the beginning. And she actually engages, not just with armed, soldiers, but with like some of the actual villain, like the supervillain characters with like powers, or abilities, or they have some kind of technology. She's actually able to, throw hands with them, not knowing why, as they make their escape. He in his robot body, holding his memories, trying to protect her, to get her, to be the one that makes it and acts as his heir. It's interesting because the professor, of course I'm forgetting his name, but it will come back to me. The Vitruvian, as arrogant as he begins, once his protocols mix with the robot's protocols, when he is basically softened gradually. If he's still alive, he's becoming a better version of himself. There is character growth here, but most of the growth is happening with the little girl whose name is Annalise. We find out she has a mom that she thought was dead, who calls her Anna. So we find out that she was just, her name was changed and all sorts of things. And then we are introduced to the idea that she might not exactly be normal, which is obvious from the fighting. And she's like 6 or 7 years old. She's not old at all. And it may have been that her dad was so arrogant, he may even have tampered with like her DNA to make her into a weapon. And we learn this type of information as the story progresses, as the father in the robot body begins to like put others before himself and his work. And it's this weight. It's very funny, it's very lighthearted, but you also have this dynamic. Is he showing a better side, or is he more concerned with his legacy carrying forward by means of his daughter? So, as a writer, Mr. Rosenberg has absolutely done a magnificent work here, and I can only recommend it. I can't say anything bad unless you never liked Venture Brothers or you don't like humor in your comics. As far as the overall story, like everything, and rating it on a score, hitting this with a criteria, it's gonna get a really, really high score. I mean, I think as a miniseries, this is something that deserves an 8.5 or a 9. Not perfect, but really, really, really worth your time. And I mean, if not this miniseries, get involved with a miniseries. If you're new to comics, or you're newly new to comics because you've been away for a while, but it feels brand new to you again, don't avoid the miniseries. Don't avoid, the Image Comics section or any of the other independent ones. Don't be afraid to go online. You'll find some of the best stuff you're gonna read in the shorter little series, and I remember them. They really stick in my mind a lot. That's another thing. I don't end up forgetting them, and sometimes that's not the case with the longer runs and the longer compilings, and having a nice long satisfying read. I will say this though, the wordiness, like how much you sometimes you just want to get to the point, and I think this is why I like my reading experience kind of. It took me longer than I thought it was, and then after an issue, I kind of felt like closing it for a second. So I'll shave a point or a point and a half based on that humorous tone kind of slowing down. Like, come on, get it out already. Get your one-liners out, because the one-liners, they're not just like not always like a few words. It's sometimes a like really long wordy thing, and he's setting up a really good joke with it, but you have to, if you're like me and you read slow, so on overall readability, we're gonna just shave that little bit, but I really enjoyed this, and I think you will too. Speaking of things you're gonna possibly enjoy, or maybe you won't, but I got a few more things coming up planned. I'm going to be doing my first review of an album. I've been kind of avoiding that because as a musician, I can be more scathing and more cynical and more of a curmudgeon, and I didn't know if I wanted to bring that kind of energy to this channel. But I think honest reviews and the encouragement, when I'm hearing the modernization of techniques that are leading to, and primarily the style of music I play, which is metal, I'm kind of getting tired of Pro Tools and overproduction and things like that, and I'm starting to miss the heart and notice patterns, and so that's what it's the same with the comic industry. You'll hear a lot going on with distaste from the audience and wanting things to get back to old roots, and then you'll have just as many saying, hey, give us some new ideas, let's give them a chance. So I'm kind of thinking in some cases I'm gonna be that counterpoint to the positive review on the same album, and that's cool. We all got voices, but I want to get into that because I have my own insights, and I'm kind of thinking like just going after the recent or the new albums, not going back in time and reviewing the things that everyone else has reviewed. But I know a lot about a lot of bands past, and I know when like a band had a heyday and they're not reliving it, which is going to kind of be a theme of this upcoming review. And then we got some more stuff coming up. I'm thinking, with everything going on, Absolute Batman, Absolute Wonder Woman, and Absolute Superman, they gotta be the most pressing next thing for me. So breaking into the Absolute universe, I've got 5 titles up to their current latest issue. I do not have Absolute Green Lantern up to date. I only had issue 1. So we're gonna get into that. I need to know about this Absolute Batman hype, and I need to know a lot more about this Absolute Wonder Woman hype. I've read about 4 issues into each of those, and I was very impressed. But I want to see these very, very heralded, very championed runs that are selling so well, and let's see how they wind up on the barometer of Drumboy Reed Slow's special rating criteria. Couple spotlights coming up, Distillery, and then we also got Ripperverse. Those are going to be shorter reviews. I promise not to drone on things. I want to get to the point and kind of give a numerical rating and get to the point, because I know people are curious about those, and very often the price tag and the wait time and all that is kind of turning people off. So let's see. I mean, let's see, you know, if it's worth the investment. I can honestly say I've sampled. I got positive thoughts going into that. I definitely am looking forward to talking about those. So let's wrap this up. Thanks for listening to this little last segment. I didn't go into the art too much on this because it's really about the dialogue. It's really about the humor. The art is kind of a backseat. And what you're seeing on the cover, I mean, what you're seeing on the cover is literally what you're getting on the inside of the book. Again, you know, A+ on the consistency on the art and the cover to interior art. But we already ended the video. Cut, drum boy, cut.